Hey, welcome back. It's season 3 of Garage Monologues. My name is Jay Swanson, and you've probably been listening for a while if you haven't already. If you're hearing this or seeing it, it means that you're on the public feed, which means that this episode came out about 6 months ago for my patrons. And if you'd like to get on top of that, if you'd like to see these episodes as they come out, support the show, help me to keep it going, because, you know, it's everything's up in the air this year. There are a lot of big changes coming, but let me know over on patreon.com/JSwanson. You can support the show. You can listen to all the episodes from this season right now. You don't have to wait, or you can continue listening to them as they drop every other week for the next 5 or 6 months. It's the season of becoming French, and there's a lot of cheese that gets eaten in this season. I hope you enjoy it. Swanson.
Definitely got to wake up before you get... I mean, you can just use this as your time to wake up. Maybe you should start going to sleep so you get ready for jet lag.
Yeah, if only it worked that way.
Welcome back to Garage Monologues, Season 3, Episode 9. This one is overdue, and we have lots of problems, but we'll explain them all. But I wanted to wait and make sure to include my dad. This is my dad.
Hello.
And he's now going to be the last guest of season 3, but also like Karin was the last guest of season 1, my sister. So I guess every odd season can have a family reunion at the end.
Yeah, maybe we can all be together for the next one.
That'd be fun.
Yeah, it would be.
Just gonna have to get another microphone.
Or learn to share.
Or learn to
it's
share.
It's about time.
I refuse. I refuse. So the complications is that the reason we didn't do this last week is because I couldn't get the cheese. Because all the cheese shops in my neighborhood were closed. And I think that was on a Wednesday, 1 or 2 weeks ago. And then I asked for help from someone who will remain nameless because they had emergencies that then meant that they couldn't help. And so I had to scramble today to try and get the cheeses, and all the cheese shops are closed again. I don't know what's going on, and none of the supermarkets have. We're also at the end of the cheese, so for those of you that may just be tuning in for the first time, this is the season of becoming French. So it's the road to citizenship. It's talking about becoming French, talking with friends about it, talking about my dad a little bit here today. But then the theme with the guests was that we would try all of the protected French cheeses. There are a couple different categories of defined, protected, regional cheeses, and trying to get through all of them. I think there are 67 of them, and we were on the last 14 of them today. Wow. But they happen to be all of the probably trickiest ones to find. Between seasonally and just rarity, they seem to be pretty hard. Anyways, they've been kicked off other lists along the way because we couldn't find them. So it's going to be It's going to be a hard one to do anyways when the cheesemongers are open. None of the cheesemongers were open. Apparently, I walked for a while in the rain. I couldn't find any. I went into 2 grocery stores that had nothing that I was looking for, and so instead, I just bought a little sampler plate because I was like, well, you know what, Dad, you don't get away without eating any cheese. We wouldn't want you to feel left out entirely.
I appreciate that.
Pretty basic plate. We have a chèvre, which is a goat cheese. I believe a sheep cheese and a cow cheese. Cow cheese is the Comté. This is like a pont d'évêque. We've already had it. It's a blue cheese that I remember being pretty good. The goat cheese looks really tame, and this cheese, what was the name of it again? I might actually be mixing these up because there weren't labels on these cheeses. There were labels on cheeses that looked like them. So these might not even be the right cheeses, so it doesn't even matter that I can't fully remember what we're doing. But we also got a grocery store baguette because the bakery I wanted to go to is also closed. Mondays in Paris, the worst. So anyway, we've got grocery store, cheese platter, and quote-unquote baguette, a plain baguette that was square. But I already had a little bit of it. It's fine. It's good. It's not like it's bad or anything. It's just plenty to complain about here. So anyways, that's the experience. I'm going to try and get the cheeses that are missing by the end of the season. And otherwise, well, I guess I'll just eat them on my own. I can't keep delaying podcasts because I can't find cheese.
Or you could.
I could forever. So anyway, that's that. We can jump into the cheese here in a minute. I'm actually pretty hungry, so I'm looking forward to at least trying these out and seeing how they go. But before we do that, Dad, you've been here a lot lately. People have commented that you seem to be passing through a lot. What's going on? How are you? How is it that you're able to come and visit and spend so much time over here? I'm very grateful for that.
Well, It involves my work, so I get to go to different parts of the world at different times, and often Paris is a great place to come to on the way to other locations. So I just happen to get to see you as well as do something for work. So it's really nice. I really, it's been good.
It's very convenient. I just realized there's a shirt thrown on the couch behind you, looking trashy in here. I'm trying to hide how trashy the place is. I haven't been able to clean up in a while.
Yes. Well,
how do you describe? Because I think if anybody's listened to my podcast for a while, they know that you used to be a pastor. But how do you describe what you do now? I have a way that I describe it to people, but I think it also depends on what their context.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it really depends on context. So. On one hand, you could say that I'm a pastor without walls.
I like that.
And that's over the years, I have connected with people from all walks of life. And currently, I am friends with folks that are involved in different parts of the world. And so I will get an invitation to something that they're doing. And I like to go and support them and meet the folks that they're spending time with.
Yeah. It's good. If people are familiar with Christianese, I call you an itinerant discipler.
Oh, okay.
And I think it actually works really well.
Yeah.
But
if you're into the Christianese,
if you don't understand Christianese, which is a very niche language, then
yeah, it is.
Then
it's a strange language.
It's a bizarre one. Then yeah, pastor without walls. That works. Spending time with people and
do a lot of listening.
Yeah.
Ask a few questions, hopefully good questions.
I'm glad that it gets you on airplanes and that those airplanes can conveniently pass through Paris.
Yeah, Paris is conveniently located.
I was going to say or inconveniently, depending, but yeah, it works out really well.
Yeah. Well, the fun when I went to Nepal, it was actually an hour shorter to go from the West Coast to Paris to Nepal as opposed to going from Paris from the West Coast to go west to Nepal. It was actually an hour total travel time was less.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is.
The Pacific, there's the random asides now, but there was at Beaugrenelle, there's a mall, and they have a really big space, and they hung a giant globe, massive. It was like 2 stories tall, and so just slowly rotate. I think just on its own, if as you watched it, the Pacific took up an entire side. As it rotates away, you basically just lose sight of land. And then land starts to come back in. Like Australia kind of peeks in on the corner. New Zealand tries to catch up. And then all of a sudden Asia is there. But it's a lot. I think it's hard to, I feel like it's hard to actually comprehend just how big the Pacific is. And so, yeah, thankfully you have the convenient route of passing through Paris.
Yeah. It works for me.
Yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah, and you still like me enough that I can visit. So
thankfully, yeah, works out well. And thankfully, we're lucky that we have also now access to more space because my landlady is kind enough to let you stop in her place, and that's another massive blessing that she's handed on to us. So that's really good. And yeah, it's good to have you. It's lucky because I do get to see you occasionally going back to the States and seeing family and so forth. What's it like? I think that one of the other common questions that you get all the time that I'm sure someone's wondering would be, what is it? How is it having your kids in different time zones Kyne's in the same time zone, but she's on one of the other corners of the American map.
Right.
Yeah. What's it like having kids abroad?
There are pros and cons. And the main con is that I don't get to see you guys on a day-by-day or a weekly kind of basis.
Yeah.
So I was with a friend in Bulgaria this weekend, and his kids and grandkids all live in the same community.
Yeah.
So they get to be around them on a regular basis. And that's a wonderful thing, and now that Karn has the boys, it would be wonderful if I could be around them more, if for no other reason than to have fun, jump on the trampoline. and or maybe even give Kevin and Karin a break.
Yeah, maybe.
Once in a while.
Maybe.
So that would really be nice. Or, we've talked about wanting to go golfing.
Yeah.
Things like that. I just can't call you up and say, hey, let's go.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So that's the con. But the pro is that you both live in wonderful places. And in terms of Karin, I have a direct flight out of Spokane.
Yeah.
So I can jump on an airplane and be in San Diego faster than I can drive across state to Seattle. So even though mileage-wise it's much further, time-wise it's faster.
Yeah.
So as long as there are the resources to be able to jump on the plane, that works out well.
Yeah.
And when I thought about it, let's see, this summer, in the course of the next 2 months, I will see you more than I will see her over the course of a year.
Yeah.
Because we'll be together somewhere around 3 to 4 weeks over the next 5 or 6 weeks, or however that works. So, but I may get to see her a little more frequently, but just not as much time.
I have a lifestyle that's a little more accommodating too.
Yeah.
Which is that without children or a set schedule. That's the other reason that I was going to get into this. I just realized that the podcast has been very low priority. Has been that I accepted an invitation to speak at a TEDx event this coming weekend, and my dad just raised the roof for those of you that aren't watching this.
Woo!
And which is cool. It's a really, really cool opportunity, and it's one that I almost turned down because I've been very busy and already feeling a little overwhelmed. But I decided to do. I'm fortunately in a place where I'm either filming for the 20 and 20, so I'm like 5 Arandes months into that so far. Which my dad has been a part of 2 of those videos, and hopefully we can get him into a third. We tried last night, and it didn't work. For other reasons, nothing works in this country. Nothing ever goes smoothly. But
however,
yeah.
Last night was a delightful evening.
It was good.
It was really good.
What did we do last night?
We went to St. James in Paris,
Yep.
which is not a 5-star hotel, but a palace.
It is.
Which I had never heard of anything being above 5 stars, but that only makes sense competition-wise.
Of course.
So, and we had drinks there, and it was a delightful time with Pouchon. And then afterwards, we went and had a steak dinner, all to celebrate my birthday.
All for your birthday.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, happy birthday.
So it was a delightful time,
belated
even
birthday.
though it didn't work for.
Well, he was supposed to. Speaking of things not working, he was supposed to get here he was supposed to be here for his actual birthday a month ago, and unfortunately couldn't make it, and so just delayed the plans. So not unfortunate because it'd been fun to do it on the day, but we still got to do it. And the St. James I thought would be a really fun inclusion for the 2020 because it is the fanciest thing I probably would ever put into a video. I mean, up there, I'm sure we'll do something fancy along the way, but they did not want me to film without authorization, and the people that could give authorization were not working. And it's just I was like, you know what, whatever, we'll just have a nice evening and do that. And yeah, but it leaves me needing a drinks place to put. I need an ending to the video still. So there's a place in the 16th that was in the date spot video that we didn't ever really talk about or put anywhere. Like it's going to go in the expanded version of the guide once the app side of things is up and running. But until then, just doesn't exist anywhere.
So what I'm hearing from you is the lesson is when you come to Paris, just skip Monday.
Yeah, just skip Monday, just sleep in. Sundays and Mondays are complicated, but also every day there's something that's going to be. But yeah, it is that thing about Paris, which is why I actually kind of don't mind it. Like I'll mention it in the video, and I don't mind that. Like we filmed a lot in the rain, which was not fun, and whatever else. But it's like, yeah, but you can still get out, you can still have a good time, and you can still find good stuff, and you don't have to stay home. And just because one thing is closed, there's something down the street that you're gonna love as well. And I guess it's more about setting expectations, right? About like, okay, well, that didn't work, but we can go somewhere else, or we can just enjoy this for what it is and continue on, because nothing ever fully stacks up, so might as well just enjoy it. But all that to say that, yeah, I've been really focused on either filming or preparing this talk, and I have not had any bandwidth left for anything else, but I wanted to make sure that we filmed this or recorded this podcast with you before you left, because I won't have an opportunity until June, and by then we will be on hiatus from podcasting, and I was really hoping to get the cheese going, and we didn't. So speaking of cheese, would you like some cheese?
Sure. And, maybe you save the last 4 or 5 that you were looking for that family time, that family podcast in 2 years.
There you go. Within 2 years, and bring 4 or 5 cheeses. It might take a while. It might take that long to get them. We can start. Well, honestly, I feel like these are going to be pretty tame. This one might be a little less tame. And I know you're not the biggest fan of blue, but...
No, but I'll try it.
Yeah, give it a try. But we can. So, do you want to start with? Do you want to dive head first with the blue?
Let's do it.
All right, let's do it. So I cut up little chunks here already. There's one for you. Probably doesn't look little, but tain't big. Blue is something we've talked about this a lot on the podcast this season. But blue is something that has definitely grown on me, and I really like it now. But I used to hate it. Here's a bread cheers for you. Cheers.
Cheers. Eye-to-eye contact.
Mm-hmm. It's all right. I mean, it's got that tangy, kind of metally taste.
Not as tangy as I would have thought.
It's not.
Or expected.
It's pretty weak, actually.
So,
I was hoping for it to be a little saltier, to be honest.
One
of the things I really like about a good blue cheese is like sometimes it's just like really salty. You like it okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty creamy.
Yeah, it's fine.
But it's not like the punchiest, not the strongest of flavors.
No.
Well, now I can't.
It's actually better than what I have had in the States.
Oh, good. Maybe we'll convert you to being a blue cheese fan.
At least of this style.
No, at least in France. Yeah, it has a sweetness to it, actually. Mm-hmm. It's nice.
It is. It's good.
It's funny because I spend all my time with people that really know a lot about food, and I just like do my best. This tastes creamy and sweet, kind of tangy. It works.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things. So, 2 things you made me think of. We didn't at the end of this video is not out yet, but we've said this before on camera, I think. But in the 19th video, we remind people that you have to make eye contact when cheersing. Otherwise, it's 7 years bad sex. But you're also not supposed to cross. Don't cheers over someone. So if 2 people are cheersing, don't reach over that or under it. That's like walking under a ladder.
Yeah. And it's funny because when I was in Sofia this weekend, we did do some cheers, but it involved some Americans and some Brits and so forth. And I was conscious of trying to make eye contact because of my time with you.
Yep.
Yeah.
We all do it. I mean, it's funny. It is a thing. You did a good job there, cheersing the bread.
Well, yeah, you have me trained.
No, I've been trained.
Well,
it's just culture. That's culture. It just kind of grows and self-perpetuates, right?
Well, yeah. And it also shows that parents think they're training their kids when in reality it's the other way around.
Yeah, eventually comes back around.
Okay,
true.
so what is this?
Cheese? I think this is a goat cheese. It's very light and fluffy. I think it might have some ash on the outside. It's going to be, I'm guessing it's going to be very creamy. I'm not expecting a super strong flavor. Go for it. Oh, here, you can have that one. I was just smelling that one, but you can take it.
Okay. Cheers.
Cheers. Yep, that basically is exactly what I expected. It's like pillowy, creamy. Very, very lightly acidic, but it almost doesn't even have flavor.
It's almost like a cream cheese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's kind of. What would you say? How do you make it? It gets more like aromatic as you.
Yeah, there's a
chew
little
it.
more flavor. Well, and the aftertaste seems to have a little more flavor, if you will.
Yeah. We're having the. See, even grocery store cheese is fine here in France. It's a pre-made little platter. It's okay. The thing about the Comté is that it's only 6 months old, so see how it is. Like I love old Comté, and
so it's just how does the flavor change?
Well, so as it ages, the lactic, I think it's the lactic acid that crystallizes. I don't know. Don't quote me on that because I don't know what exactly it is. I don't think it's the actual acid, but there's I think lactic crystals form. I should probably look up the science of how this works. I always thought they were salt crystals, but they're not. They do taste really salty though. So when you bite in, you get a little bit of crackle, and like it's really strong flavor. Just like it has time to develop a really bold like character, and then those crystals, just like a nice little punchiness to it. So when it's younger, tends to be a little bit creamier. Creamy. I mean, Comté is not super creamy, but it definitely is a little bit softer. And then it never tastes as strong, so it's just not as nice.
Yeah.
Of an experience. You can get like 2 or 3 year old Comté. That's where it's really at. So this one's 6 months old. It's a baby.
Okay.
So we can get to that, I suppose. But
You robbed the cradle.
yeah, unfortunately, it's not my preference, but that's where we ended up. Poor little cheese. Poor little cheese. So it's a time away from the kids. Not to, I feel like, yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because like we're also in different places in life in some ways where, like Karin has gone down a completely different path than I have. Getting married, having kids, and then she's got she didn't go down the full-time job route. She just kind of ended up in that to support what was going on their side. And then you guys moved around. We all moved around quite a bit for a minute there, like from Pullman to Texas and West Africa and everywhere else. And you guys ended up in Spokane. And then, I ended up here. But it is that thing. It also does feel like we're kind of like, that con of not being able to see each other more regularly. I really like that idea of like just being able to call you up and be like, hey, let's go golfing. I really like that idea. That would be really nice. But I also don't think I could survive in Spokane.
Right.
And
I wouldn't expect you to.
No, and I know that. But I don't know. I was just thinking about it because that is a really nice idea, right? Like that.
Oh yeah.
So I just need to get you to move here. But it's that thing where it's like we're all in different places where that's not really possible, right? Like
right.
I feel like we all have our reasons to be where we are, and we can't be closer necessarily. So thankfully we can travel. But I don't know. What are your thoughts on that? Like, what is that? Is it just kind of a static thing? Is it a seasonal thing? Is it what is that?
It's really hard to know. Because at this point, I was going to say I don't know if any of us at this stage are that flexible to relocate.
Yeah.
You might be the closest, and then me, but at some point that may change, and I guess I want you and Karin to be where you feel like you need to be. I was telling someone that when we first visited you in Nice, that you felt like your experience here was not what you had hoped by any means. And then we took the train up here to Paris, and almost right away you just lit up. Like, oh, this is where I needed to be. What was I doing in Nice?
Yeah.
Right? And over the years, I've watched you express how much you feel at home and comfortable here.
Yeah.
So to take you away from that would be a huge disservice to you. Mm-hmm. Would be bad for you. And I know that at some point you may choose to live elsewhere at some point, but that needs to be your choice.
Yeah.
So, I think Karin and Kevin are feeling similar in some ways in San Diego. So, as your father, I'm excited that you guys have found places that you feel good about, and that I can get to you, and living in Spokane, the great thing there is from parking lot through security is 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's not bad.
So it's great, 10 minutes from my apartment.
We just need a direct flight from Spokane to Paris.
Well, yeah. Yeah, well, Seattle to Paris isn't bad.
Not too bad.
Yeah.
But on the way back, it's always that extra flight, that extra leg that's like,
yeah, sitting
45-minute flight, really. Like,
yeah, especially when there's a 2-hour layover in Seattle. That 45-minute
I'll be
flight.
doing that sometime soon.
Yeah, lucky you.
Great, yeah. Well,
anyway,
no. That's. But I think it's that thing where. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it too much either, though, for a while. Because for me, like, I've been more on the run for so long too, and I think that like I don't have any intention of going back to the States, and I don't have any I think right now I am locked in here. I think I am probably the closest to being flexible, just because like if I can get my citizenship,
Right.
then everything opens up. Then it's like, oh, anything is possible.
Right.
But until that happens, hopefully it happens. Yeah, I mean, I'm locked in here, but also like my business is here. And
Exactly.
everything I do is here.
Yeah.
So it's that thing where it'd be interesting too, because like I think the cool thing about prepping the TED Talk has been TEDx talk, but the TED Talk has been it's all about there is a level of my journey in it, and remembering when you first got here, we were talking about writing and how like writing had just become a non-thing in my life, and how I'm not sure how that fits back in, but I'm starting to see how that could happen again. And I think going back through like the years I put into it, it's like, yeah, I would like to get back to it. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting because even if I don't know what the future looks like. But all that to say that like I was just thinking like, yeah, it wasn't even on my radar in a lot of ways because I didn't want to be anywhere else, and I still don't want to be anywhere else. But it is interesting how life changes, and I'm kind of just open to what happens and what comes. So I could end up in Paris for the rest of my life, or I could just be here part-time. I don't imagine ever leaving, but I don't know. And I think I don't know how you'll, I know I kind of know how you'll take this, but for me, I realize this is not true, but like, I already think I'm 40 in my brain, even though I'm not. And I already just kind of think, well, I've kind of done like if I do a TED Talk and maybe run a marathon, then I've done it all, then it's over. Then life is done. Like I've ticked all the boxes and I can just die. And it's so funny how like there's just something in my brain that's like, yeah, like life's almost over. It was a good one. You had a nice run. And so I just can't imagine the future, which is a thing that happens anyways. I think you're raised, especially in a town like Pullman, you grew up worshiping education basically, and you think, okay, I know every step all the way through my education, and then I just go on and am an adult. So there's already kind of a lack of like, what do you really do on the other side of school? But now it's like I struggled and strived so hard just to not be starving that you're just like, oh, well, now what? What is the future? I don't even know what am I building? Where am I going? What am I doing? So I think that the nice to land that plane, the thing about it is that's kind of cool is in our discussion at the beginning of your trip about writing and then developing this talk and then seeing that like I could actually really do a chunk of work in Paris every year, kind of gear it towards the tourist season. And then if I want to make any other videos throughout the year, I can just do kind of whatever I want. Or I could take time to go somewhere and write, get out of Paris, go into the countryside, go to a seaside town or something, and just spend a lot more time writing. That there's a real appeal to me in that as well.
And for me, I would love to see you doing that because even if you never publish it,
yeah,
I think it will reinvigorate you and it will show in other aspects, including the business.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think for you, it's the kind of thing that would be refreshing and good for your mind, good for your soul and your spirit. Probably good for you physically too, because you slow down some when you write.
Yeah.
I know it can be tiring, but if you could take 6 weeks and just write, have your coffee, have a good beer. You
don't do 20,000 steps a day writing, so
probably. Well, so you might have to change that.
No, but I'm saying that's a good thing. Like all these videos have been exhausting, but yeah, I don't know. I think that's interesting for you. Like, is there in a future, would you want to move to California? Would you want to come out here for longer stints, or is there somewhere else that you would actually like? You enjoyed London. Is there somewhere that you would just like to go spend some more time?
Well, define time.
I don't know. I mean, like, yeah, I guess.
Are you talking 3 weeks or are you talking 3 years?
That's the thing, yeah. So I think both. I'm curious in both. I'm curious about both. Like, what would you like to go visit more, or would you like to explore? And then, yeah, would you be up to move somewhere, or because you do have a good support network in the Northwest,
right? Yeah, and that's one of the things that, sorry.
That's okay. Cooper snores are better than Cooper farts when it comes to interruptions. So
For sure.
I'll take the snore.
Yeah. Well, again, it depends on what life brings my way, right? Would I be willing to move? I try to hold that open.
Yeah.
Throughout your life, I don't know if you picked this up from me and from Mom, but I've tried to hold things like this with an open hand, which is one of the reasons why we ended up in Texas.
Yeah.
Someplace that was not on our radar
maybe
whatsoever.
The only,
But that's where we ended up. And, so trying to hold things like that. So would that happen? It could very well happen. That, I've thought that if circumstances lined up properly, I could see myself coming and spending a month here at a time.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'd do the same down in San Diego or not. But when it comes to actually uprooting and moving at my stage of life, on one hand, I would have the flexibility to do that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, what you alluded to is really important, and that's the friendships.
Mm-hmm.
And as you know, when you move to a new place, it can be difficult to build friends.
Yeah.
When you guys were younger, the avenue was through schools. So we'd get to know other parents of kids, and some of your friends' parents became friends for us, that kind of a thing. So that was easier. But when you don't have that natural in, it can be really tough to build friendships.
Yeah.
So then that's a cost I would have to look at closely.
Yeah.
So would I be open to it? I think so. I would hope that I'd be open to it.
Yeah.
But I'd really have to count that cost and look at and maybe it'd be some modification. That a month visiting you, and then a month in San Diego, and then back for a few months in Spokane. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I do feel that. I mean, that's why for me in the past, I think it's two things for me, because I moved so much just because I was running from myself, I think. But so I never really wanted to settle. And then, so I've gotten a lot healthier. And I think that for me, it's that motivation to keep moving is gone, and mostly gone. I think the desire to explore is coming back, but the desire to move has waned a lot. And I think also the friends, it's just that thing where I feel like I've invested. It's not sunk. It's not. I don't think it's sunk pot fallacy. Like I don't think or sunk cost, pot committed. Those are the two that I was conflating there. I don't think it's the sunk cost fallacy where I'm like, oh, but I've spent too much time here to leave. I realize people leave all the time. There's always a risk that people will go. Some of my closest friends are always kind of on the verge of maybe leaving. Thankfully, a couple of them are staying forever. Lindsay will never leave Paris. She barely leaves her own neighborhood. And yes, Lindsay, I know you're hearing this, and I can't wait to hear about it later.
That's okay, Lindsay. You go for it.
Go for what? She's not going for anything but staying on her street. No, that's not true. It's kind of true. But I think, yeah, it is. I mean, it's a big thing. I think about that when it's like, oh, but would you want to move to X, Y, or Z? And it's like, well, kind of, but like, especially after having lived here for a long time and now having Cooper and having met a lot of people in my neighborhood, and I don't know, between what I do for work and him and whatever else, kind of becoming a known entity around the city. And there's a combination of things, because part of it's like sometimes I'd rather not be known. Not that I'm super famous or anything, but there's something that's nice to just walk into a coffee shop, buy coffee, and then sit down and read or just do whatever you're going to do. But also just like that sense, it engenders a sense of community, because like community doesn't have to be particularly intimate or deep. Like you have that. I feel like growing up in the church, I felt like you have to have an intimacy and a depth with everyone, with like dozens of people. And it took me until 4 minutes ago. No, it took me until pretty recently to realize, oh no, like I really need to just invest in a few people and not give myself away to all these people, which I'm sure played into my daily vlogging. But in doing so, like you also recognize the simple pleasure and like the necessity of just saying hi to the local vendors, and I have French words coming to my mind for the people in my neighborhood, but just like the local flour vendor and cheesemonger, if they're ever open, which they're not. And just like that those little interactions make a big difference. And yeah, if you move to a new place, that will come, but you are starting over, and if you have to find new, like, deeper relationships, people that will really support you, that's a whole nother level of investment to get to that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's different when you're 20.
Yeah, if it really is.
Years ahead of you, and when you get to be closing in on 70, then it's like,
yeah, where do I want to spend this? Yeah,
where's the challenge there?
But to be fair, when you're 70, I think you have a better framework through which to choose the people you spend your time with.
Okay, true, but finding those people, though,
it's hard.
Is not easy.
I think, but and it does get harder as you get older, for sure. I'm not trying to minimize that.
Oh, no, not at all. And part of that is because people have their lives established.
Yeah.
And I mean, you've mentioned that as well, where you're having trouble getting time with someone, but it's because they're doing things they need to be doing. Yeah,
and well, like you said, as people get married, have kids, there's certain avenues that then meet. Basically, like, my friends are all very non-traditional in their lifestyle and their jobs and whatever, because they're actually available when I'm available. And the funny thing is, like, for me, my lifestyle is so much, my job is being out and doing so much and going out, eating out, drinking, all these things, that, like, when the weekend comes, if there's a weekend, I just want to stay home. And which is a new thing for me too. I didn't used to want that, but now it's like, no, I've learned that rest is important and I value it. It just comes at the time that everyone else wants to go out, which is on me. I could definitely shift things, and I could work on weekends and then combine work with hanging out, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. It's just weird. So same thing. I'm not meeting young parents, and there's a lot of avenues, like, or people that in France, especially, people really make friends with their colleagues. They go to lunch with them. They go after drinks with them. It becomes a circle of friends that I also don't have. I'm working, not by myself anymore, but like for myself and basically by myself. So I feel that. I imagine moving, especially if you were to move somewhere like France, then you also have to find people. There's a language barrier. There's a lot there. Like, it's definitely, that would be a huge move, which is why I think, like, there's a part of me in my brain that's like, well, if I can provide the space for you, like, my goal is when I talk about having a Parisian apartment or buying my chateau, the whole thing is like, well, I just got to make sure that there's enough room so that you could come stay. And so in my brain, it's kind of like that, where it's like, well, I mean, if worst comes to worst, I'll have space for my dad. The medical system here is amazing. And even if he's on a tourist visa, they're not going to turn him away. Like, hopefully they're not listening to this for my citizenship interview. And no, but I mean, it's that thing where, it's just like, okay, like, you have that space where, like, Karin and her family or whatever, just like, okay, well, there's a place to land, if nothing else. But for me, that's easy because I've lived abroad for a dozen years. I speak the language. I'm on the verge of getting citizenship. Like, for me, there's nothing particularly foreign or stressful about living here. There are things that are certainly foreign.
Frustrating.
Yeah, and very frustrating. But but that's true. But my French friends complain about the same things. Like, we're all like, why does the superstructure of French culture have to be built this way? But yeah, I don't know. That's why for me, it's like, on the one hand, I think more romantically, you're like, oh, well, then there's this space and place for my family. But the reality is that it would be a really, really big event, like, for any of you to uproot and move here, similar to when I did it the first time. And so I don't even know if that's even remotely realistic. I think it's possible, but I don't think it's,
right.
a thing. So not that I don't still want to provide the opportunity if it's needed, but I think we were talking about this when we were talking about, like, cabins and, like, having, like, a lake cabin in the woods kind of a thing. And it can be nice it's very nice to have that to offer to friends and family, but you don't want to do it for them when maybe they don't even want it, or there's no guarantee that anyone's ever going to show up. Like, you have to find the thing that you want, and you're going to do it for yourself, that at least if nobody shows up, you'll be happy. And if people do show up, great. And I think I'm kind of thinking through that because I don't know what the future looks like. And I don't know where it's going. Hopefully in good places. I've stopped reading the news more or less because I'd like to believe it's going in good places, but I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Well, you've covered a little bit of ground.
I was going to say a terrible transition question there, but yeah, I don't know, because...
Well, I think a lot of families go through this question.
Yeah, and you've lived more life than I have, so you've seen that life continues after even you think you're 40 when you're not.
Yeah.
I might as well be 40. I have no problem with being 40. It's just weird that my brain, I literally, when people are like, how old are you? I'm like, not 40, I think.
So anyway, I think a lot of families go through that. They become empty nesters.
Yeah.
And then in this day and age where you can work anywhere,
Yeah.
a lot of kids say, hey, I want to go to Florida to work, or New York.
Yeah.
Maybe even Cleveland.
It happens.
Yeah.
Shout out Cleveland.
Yeah. Or London or
Yeah.
whatever, So, and then when the parents retire, they now have all this free time. They downsize their home often, and they're looking at, well, do I move closer to the kids?
Yeah.
And maybe the grandkids. So a lot of families work through that and make their decisions and make their moves, and more power to them if they're able to do that. That's great. But I think whenever they do that, it comes again with that cost. That how do you make connections with your peers and make relationships that are good for you, and not just draining on the kids. And so, this is a very real topic, and I don't know how it will play out with us. With your mom in a care facility,
Mm-hmm.
that's a wild card.
Yeah.
That whole thing. So we'll see.
No, and it's hard because and that thing that we want. I have talked about this on a podcast, I think a few episodes ago, but that difficulty of also wanting a relationship with one parent and not the other, but also you guys are still together, and that is like it. I think that's the thing, though. I don't know how much that complicates anything for me so much as it is the both a tie to Spokane, and also for me a reason I'd rather not go.
Yeah.
Because that's fine. I will go. I'm still going to go, and I'm going to go straight to Pizza Pipeline, and it'll be great. But it's tricky, right? Like, I think growing up, I always thought, well, I grew up thinking our family was just like solid and perfect, and what are all these other messed up families over here doing? And then you grow up and you're like, oh no, like we're there's a reason that we're disparate, and we're all coming to figure it out, and we're really grateful for your willingness to talk and to grow and to figure this out with us. And it's not easy, but it does add like another weird level of complication, because I think for me, then recognizing, like, as we engage and as we talk about these things, like it's not as easy for us in some ways. We don't gel. I think we get along fine, and like we stay in communication and we love each other, but in a way, like, we don't quite gel in that. Maybe nobody does, but it feels like there's a fluidity there that, like, I feel like, okay, well then that means I need to put in a little extra effort, and I need to actually try, and I need to, and I think you do this. I think you really try. Like, you show up, and like when you first got here, you were pushing me to talk about, in a good way, but you were asking about stuff that you wanted to talk about with therapy, with what I'm going through with mom, all these things. And I really appreciate that. Because I was a little bit apprehensive to talk about it, because I had been going through a lot and I just wasn't sure if I was ready. So I really appreciate that. And I think from my perspective, same thing with Karin, is it's like, okay, like we all, there is a bit of fracture there. And so how do we mend that so that we can not just bridge those gaps, but close those gaps and make a stronger sense of fluidity? And it's hard to be at that place where I'd like to do that, but now proximity is a factor. And so it's great that you can travel so much so easily. I mean, California is a little bit harder for me for distance and logistics, but I'm still trying to get there once or twice a year. But yeah, I don't know. I've just been thinking about that because it's like I don't know if you feel the same way or not, but it feels very, very much like there's some stuff to like figure out. Okay, well, how do we, and maybe it just requires a little extra energy, and maybe that's just relationships in general. Maybe they always require a little extra work, but
Yeah. And I think the proximity piece is a big piece.
yeah.
Because, we're almost in daily contact with each other.
Yeah.
I mean, if nothing else, through Wordle.
Yep.
Right? So, and I don't know how often you and Karin are talking or texting.
Yep.
But, I think we have quite a bit of communication in that regard.
Yeah.
But I think some of that communication is hindered simply because we're not sitting in the same room.
Yeah.
When you sit face to face and you're not holding a microphone, it allows for different kind of conversation.
Yeah.
So, so I think proximity is a big issue there. Something, we don't need to talk about this on camera, but at some point I have thought that maybe given the proximity issue, we need to, or not need to, but could consider doing like a family vacation.
Yeah.
Where,
We've talked about that before.
Where, all 7 of us maybe go to Hawaii or something.
Yeah.
Or
just
even
go as far away from Europe as you can. Yeah. Just keep going that direction.
Yeah. Well, which I guess we could go to. Who needs to go to an island? But anyway,
we can find an island in the Caribbean. That'd be at least a step the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah. We could. Yeah. Anyway. But even renting an RV and traveling together through some of the national parks.
Yeah.
Just whatever.
To be cool.
But just to be together.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
I would like that. I would really like to talk that through. And I think, again, you and I are more flexible, so we can figure that out with them, but it'd be really good. Yeah, I think that's just kind of it, is it's like, well, it's a combination, and that, I think for me, that's the thing, is it's like that you kind of hit it, it's the type of communication, and there's a level of like depth and intimacy that can happen over a distance, and will, but it is not the same as just like spending a day together, and then at the end of the day, sitting down, the kids are in bed, and you open a beer, and then have like, who knows where the conversation wanders.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely crave that. So it's important to keep that in mind. And I think for me, I mean, financially, it in the past has been really hard just to get back to the States. And so now I think, as things are turning better for me, then it becomes less of an issue. And I think it is a high priority, but it is one that you kind of have to like remind yourself, like this, you need to plan 6 months in ahead for this thing that is important to you. And so needing to get on top of that, even if and that includes renting RVs. I'm sure they're booked out solid let's try some more cheese, by the way, too, before we run out of time. This one is that was the best transition I've ever had. What a segue. Let's rent RVs for family time. Cheese. I could bring cheese to the family time.
Sure you could.
But I don't know who. Hopefully they would be appreciated.
Well, I don't know.
Get spicy Cheetos for the kids.
Oh,
there you go.
Thank you.
Of course.
And this is
Cheers. This
cheese.
is cheese.
So you said one was goat and one was sheep.
This one tastes like cow to me. I don't think it's sheep cheese. This is good. This one's the best one so far. It's a little funky. Might be too funky for Dad. How you doing over there?
It is a little funky, but not dirty Jim socks funky.
Yeah, it's definitely. It's trying though.
Yeah,
it's trying though. That one is a little too strong to me to be sheep cheese, but we don't really know. We're just kind of flying with it. We know what the blue one is. We think that one's goat. This one, it's cheese. I can tell you that much. As far as I know. Grab this Conte. I don't need bread for the Conte. But you can definitely do some of yours. Wait, though. I'm pushing you with your... Here you go. Put this on your little bread there.
there we go.
There you go. One last cheese. Cheese cheers. Cheese cheers. Yep. It's nice though. Young Comté. I give young Comté jeune. Is it jeune Comté? Beauty, age, goodness, and size. So I should go first. Jeune Comté. Give it a hard time, but still tasty.
It is.
It's a really good dessert cheese or after meal cheese.
It's good. Thank you.
Of course. That's how I connected best with my temporary French mother-in-law. I was dating a French girl, and her mom loved cheese, and none of the other family was as into cheese. And so afterwards, she had like really old. She had some really good cheese that she break out just for me. Not really just for me. She wanted to eat it, but that's how we bonded briefly. So you always got to keep those cheese options open.
Oh, definitely.
And at the end of the day, if you don't like it, you're the only one missing out. So I keep trying. There's only a couple of them that I still really don't like, but we'll work on it.
Well, for the mystery round, I think we did okay.
Yeah, the mystery round was not so bad. Yeah, mystery cheese round. That's a title right there.
Go.
So what do you? I guess this. I don't know. I don't even know if I have a follow-up question. I have a lot of I feel like I have a lot of thoughts and feelings, but I guess this is kind of just it is a period of life to reflect, and I mean, we always need to reflect, but for me, this feels like the first time. I've definitely been at crossroads, and I've definitely felt completely lost in my life before. It's not like I'm not, but I always had kind of a guiding star where I was like, I know that I want to write. I know that I want to get to Paris. I know that, this and that. And those things served as like a direction, as a heading, as, where I'm going to go. But I don't have that right now, I feel like. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's funny because it leaves me without even actually the right question to ask almost. Because I feel like we're just in this state of, I don't know if it's stability or what it is, but it's like we're in a stable state. And I guess maybe I'm just wired to preempt whatever instability comes next. And maybe it's just, all right, maybe just enjoy this period for what it is.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm thinking of the agricultural metaphor, I guess, like of a vineyard, that there's a season of growth and fruitfulness, and then there's a period of dormancy. Mm-hmm. And then it starts to come back and, all that kind of thing. So I think in some ways maybe you're entering into, as you deal with all these other things and as you get the business more established and so forth, and you're starting to find internally maybe that stable space, it may be that you're kind of entering into a period of dormancy, which is not a bad thing. It's a rest period that allows you to grow and for new life to come. Yeah. So
where do you feel like you're at?
I guess I would encourage, where do I think I'm at?
Yeah.
Who's asking the questions here? Oh, wait a second. You are.
Oh,
Yeah, okay. Where am I at? I think I'm in a period of exploration, personally. So I think, as you know, the last few years were rough years and exhausting for me.
You've also come a long ways.
Well, thanks. I don't think I'm 100%. It's interesting because I remembered when you did the video, you came to be with me when things were very difficult with your mom. And somewhere in there talked about how tired I was, I think. And one of the comments in the video related to how long it would take to recover simply said, it's going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And that has stuck with me because I felt like this is someone who's speaking from experience.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize a long time was going to be more than a month or two. And it's turned out to be a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I still don't think I'm 100% yet, but I think I'm a lot further along. But with that, as I have recovered and so forth, that has also coincided with my freedom to do some of this travel.
Yeah.
And part of the travel is to be with friends, both new and old, certainly. But it's also kind of a period of exploration, just kind of, what might be out there yet.
Yeah.
So, Yeah, I guess that's what I would say. I'm in a season of kind of exploring, looking around, you know. Yeah. So if I'm average American male, I have another 15 or 20 years.
Yeah.
And as we've talked before,
You're above average.
Yeah, I'm an average guy. So, I'd like to see as long as nothing catastrophic happens to me health-wise,
Yeah.
I'd like to stay fit enough to keep doing these kinds of things.
Yeah.
So whether it's, swinging a golf club or jumping on the plane to go be with some folks in Bulgaria, I'd like to be able to do those kinds of things.
Yeah.
And I think there's just, it's a lot of fun when you, as my friend Boyega said, it's better together. It's really fun when you can get together with folks from different cultures and backgrounds and just share life and talk about what's going on. And
Yeah.
for me, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
It's good. Well, I'm glad you get to do it. And
Yeah,
I hope
me
you
too.
keep getting to do it
yeah,
for a long time to come.
yeah. So I don't know if I answered your question or not, but
No, you did. That's good. I mean, it is true. I mean, you're in a much better place than you were even just a couple of years ago. And I mean, pre-COVID, I mean, it's been 4 years pretty much since I flew over to help you out. And
yeah, it's been 4 years.
yeah, so
Almost just past 4 years to the day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it's good that you've been able to recover, and
Yeah.
things are pretty dire there for a minute, and we're all. I mean, I think that's the thing too. One of the things that stuck with me from the last few months has been that it's always life is just hard for everyone. It's obviously on a scale, like there's a spectrum, and I tend to think, well, I'm fine compared to whoever, they're struggling more, but when you stop and you really think about it, life is just hard. No matter what, it's always hard. Like there's even when we have moments where things go well and times are better, but just staying alive is hard. Just staying alive, and then to thrive and to enjoy it. And so it's a good reminder that when we stop and look back at, especially those really hard times, that it doesn't always feel like there's progress, but I guess it makes me feel really grateful to see yours and to see mine recently and reflecting, and to just appreciate it in the moment, because it's all we have. And I think that's kind of the thing for me, is like, stop worrying about the future so much, because you don't know what it is, where it is, what it brings. Good to plan for it as best you can. Good to set yourself up for the best future you can. But I don't know that if I'm not really living it right now and enjoying it right now, taking a moment to just really be grateful, then I'm missing out on everything.
Yeah. If you don't enjoy it now, you won't enjoy it then.
No,
You'll have missed it.
and I will have not enjoyed it.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you're here.
I am too. I'm really glad to be here.
Yeah. And we got to eat some cheese. It was pretty okay, and we had a good talk.
Yes. And thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening. I guess tune in either next week or in 2 weeks. I'll do one more video. I'll kind of do an update on where we're at with the app, why it's not out yet. I will post a link to the TEDx talk once it's available. I'll probably share it just with patrons to start. I think, we'll see. We'll figure something out. But hopefully it goes well. And I'm sure it'll go well. But I'll see you again one of these days real soon.
Yes.
Maybe with more cheese. Maybe I'll just have to get that cheese slowly over time.